Oh, already starting things off a little bit weird. All right, then, that high ground wall off.
Okay. Well, hey, we've seen some stuff like this recently. I think we have in one of the matches yesterday, the command center first that went down to this low ground base. Terran and Protoss players alike, really everybody, I think, has made some pretty creative usage of this map at some point over the course of this season. And Golden Wall is one of those maps where you can't always do the normal strategies that you would plan to do, because you've got that wall in the back of your main base. So these minerals that can be used to either go for the aggressive side in this southern open area or try to safely expand with that wall on the main ramp. But it is something that we don't see every time on this map, Zombie Grub.
I would say that amongst the pros, maybe we see that as a third base, but I would say almost never as a second base. I mean, I'm thinking, Trap is doing this. I'm thinking about kind of memey stuff, like going right up to carriers or something like that, right? But that's
I'm down with that. Just to clarify, I am 100% okay with that happening.
That would be awesome, but that would be the ultimate surprise. I mean, I think we have that on something like, what was it, like Purity and Industry? Was that the one that was like Scrap Station that was a U? Just because that is also a very weird map, but it's got to be something else. It's got to be. And I love this. This is going to be, I mean, it is a Nexus at a normal time, but Reynor's going to be confused. And while he's confused and trying to figure out, okay, to take the back Nexus, it looks like Trap's going to be going for a proxy Stargate, because that's about as proxy as you can really get it. I mean, maybe even closer.
There's several things I like about this. First of all, this position puts it for like a turbo oracle. You can get to Reynor's base so fast from where he's putting it. But also, one overlord went to check the top side, and then naturally, one overlord was going to go to look at the base of Trap, and he's not going to be able to see anything there. There's not even an overlord remotely close to where that Stargate is, and almost no Zerg player in their right mind would just mine out that bottom mineral wall for no reason. So there's also an opportunity if Trap, depending on how crazy he wants to be, he can use that low ground as a staging area with his Stargate units to put on harass, to do damage. Like, honestly, I've been kind of waiting for it. I don't think it's going to happen here because that would be way too NA level, but I'm like, man, I want to see somebody turn a proxy Stargate there into some shield batteries on the low ground and do some real crazy stuff.
Oh, I can absolutely see that happening, but I do think it would have to be in Reynor's, whatever you want to call that base, the one closest to his main, as opposed to just a little bit farther away here, as Trap is doing. So Trap really is just going for what it looks to be a normal build, just taking advantages of the map. And I think that's really important, not just because Golden Wall allows it, but because Reynor has been very vocal about how much he doesn't really like this map. I guess in context, it's been more about his ZVP discussions and ZVP, but still, he finds the ability to go top or bottom very disorienting. Already grabbing the depth here, though, is a nice start. Here comes the Oracle, actually right into the Queen, but there is no Spore Crawler, so that's still going to get a ton of damage.
Yeah, and even just taking those 3 hits from the Queen, the lack of the Spore helps a lot. I was going to say losing that first Adept as it got surrounded by a couple of those Lings was definitely painful. The Oracle's going to escape. It isn't largely damaged, but he's going to continue to add additional Oracles. And man, I do love watching this though, because I've had some games, I don't know about you, Zombie Girl, but I've had games that go like 40 minutes deep before, when we've completely mined out the top half of the map before either player tries going for the bottom. So to see it start in the bottom is just always like, I love it. It just makes you think about how the rest of this game could play out differently than normal. And I'm like, is he going to continue to try to just eat the bottom and cut off any possible way that Reynor could counterattack? Because I think it's also specifically good against the kind of guy that likes to do run-bys and throw stuff around you, right? If you don't have a single physically accessible way into your base, but you can still expand, isn't that the best thing that you could have against a guy like Reynor?
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is. And it's up to Reynor to really adjust the map to tailor to him once again, because, Trap is probably doing this specifically against Reynor. There's ways Reynor can do that. Reynor can actually mine out the middle fairly easily, and that's why the Stalker is there. So I guess Trap's taking care of that, right? He could absolutely mine out his own back, but he has yet to do that. I guess the Oracles have kind of been guarding that as well. I think eventually we'll see the paths open, but Trap is doing his best to make sure it doesn't open that soon. Also got like another 6 drones. So that's actually a fair amount of drone damage, even though he lost one of the Oracles. And by the way, I love that we had the camera for the players. So the first 6 drones that went down, we did see Reynor kind of go, ah.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I know the production team that we've had working on these casts has been absolutely top notch. We love you guys. As we do have Charge starting up now. Yeah, the player cameras are super dope. And the Roach Warren, as well as that lair beginning. Like, the tech path did not really spike up that quickly for Reynor. It's going to be a decent bit of time before those roaches are coming out onto the field, which does mean that if Trap can find some purchase, like these Archons, they're not scared of Zerglings, Zombie Grub. That's the last thing the Archons are worried about.
Yeah, Reynor, I mean, you can technically play around Ling and Queen against the Archon drops, but it's so much safer to go for those roaches. So Reynor knows that his Queens run around. There's no point in having those Lings die to the Archons. He's at least saving them. But when you get the Queens involved, it is doable. So if he doesn't want to make too many roaches or even none at all, that is his prerogative. You know, like he kind of maybe betting a little bit. There's not a bunch of charge lots being paired up with this Warp Prism, but he would be correct, at least not so far. Charge did finish. And we do have a move out. And it's Trap who's mining out the middle first and foremost. Oh my God, I love the way Trap's doing this.
Why do you think he does that instead of trying to elevate her into the main base with a clear escape path? Huh.
I think that's just too dangerous because then you have to use the Warp Prism to escape.
That sounds like just the right amount of insane risk for me, though. Tragedy.
Well, this actually is already game over, I think. Like, I talked about the charge lots joining up with the Archon drop, and I was like, well, I guess he's not going to do it. And then he mines out the middle as soon as I'm talking about it, and Reynor is also like, I guess he's not doing it. I was totally unprepared. Reynor went up to 70 drones.
He droned so hard.
I guess you take the third Nexus, and then we kind of just do this, and he was totally unprepared.
Oh, that was super well done. That was super well done by Trap. What a cool build, though, right? You take away the only thing that like we generally talk about being really terrifying from guys like Serral and Reynor, the ability to open up the map and really abuse open angles and whatnot. And he's like, no, I'm going to completely box myself in. I'm in a Faraday cage. Nothing you do or say can reach me. And then at some point, I'm just going to come out with a crap ton of Archons and Zealots and just kill you because your Roach Warren was, well, as you said, not until after he was cresting over that 60 drone mark towards 70. So really well done. And I like seeing sharp builds like that used against players like Reynor. You know, I think one of the biggest reasons when we talk about their success, they're really good at cutting corners. But in that game, it just did not seem to have enough information about what Trap was doing to make the best choice.
Mm-hmm. I think that was definitely one of those situations that doesn't happen very often to pro gamers, where they actually have to stop and think. You know, like so much of it is their repetitiveness. They've played so many thousands of games that they're not usually really thinking a lot. They know when to scout, and based off of what's scouting them, immediately what to do. But in that game, I can almost guarantee their in was like, okay, hold on. Okay, I should scout. Okay, hold on. And like that really messes with you. So while he's mechanically, you know, macro wise, he was probably still able to automate a lot of things. Strategically, I don't think he was able to automate things. And that +1 melee never ended up helping. He just was totally unprepared.
That's what I like about whenever we get maps like that, Zombie Grub, because as you said, for StarCraft players, pros, top players all around the world, the majority of the game becomes muscle memory at some point or another. So when you force somebody to think, that is where a lot of mistakes happen. And we're loaded into game 2 in the top left, leading the series 1-0. Clapping back from Korea, it's Trap.
In the bottom right, as the red Zerg, he is Reynor. Hatchery is going to be blocked 100%. Smallest map in the map pool, and Trap also sent the probe out immediately. Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Do you veto this map, Zombie Grub?
Well, I'm a Terran player most of the time, so I would say I don't. I actually don't veto any maps, and if I was gonna veto a map right now, it'd honestly be Pillars. I do not like that map.
You think you're cool like Roddy because you don't veto any maps. I see.
Yeah, well, that's a technicality, right?
I know you map elitist. It's okay.
Well, because Roddy does veto maps, but it's only the map he just played.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Playing on the same map multiple times can get annoying. This map, as you were saying, and to bring it back to talking about this game and not my games, this map is very short. So it's a very good map for a lot of aggressive type builds, simply because your units are going to reach the other player's base a lot faster. So you need to be cautious of that when it comes to cheese type stuff. At the same time, there's a lot of angles that you can kind of push and abuse, and we wouldn't really talk about it as much in this game, but like you have a Reaper Cliff into the natural for Terrans, and we don't really have that as often anymore between both the main and the natural. And there's really not a tremendous number of bases. If this game goes, like if games go really long here, you end up mining out pretty quickly. It's very hard to get that final base. So I do expect that Trap is going to try and do something funky like the last game. I hope so, because trying to play macro games against Reynor and Esl is just like the ultimate recipe for falling flat on your face.
Even at this point, yeah, even the Koreans have to admit that. At 1.3 years ago, 4 years ago, it'd be like, yeah, they're better off in the macro game, but not as much as the Korean is. So like they're still screwed. The times have definitely been a-changing. So I agree. I think it's scary to do that. Also, Submarine just really lends itself to early game aggression. And while there are some Zerg aggressive builds that they can do in this matchup, especially, I am still looking a little bit more to Trap. I think Blink, the 2-base Blink build was like temporarily popular on this map, and then I proceeded to say that and watch it fail every single time. So I feel like it's not what Trap is going to do, but certainly we can talk about like the Resonating Glaives build or maybe even Blink, but it's actually no tech structure right now. We have two additional gateways.
He's just adding gateways. It's not like he's going for a significant number. Okay, there's the Twilight Council in the back of the main base now. Kind of creating a mini run-by wall inside the main. I do think if you ever play against these players like Esl or Reynor, you should pretty exclusively, I think, wall off everything as much as you can. These Adepts, though.
What happened? I mean, Reynor had the Overlord in position, no? To see the... I mean, maybe they don't actually see... maybe I didn't see the Adepts. So that's a bit of a miscalculation.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I was like... Is this going to do anything? But then, okay, well, an uncharacteristically sloppy start then from Reynor, because he took a bit of a beating from a couple of units in his base early on in the last game. And there is Resonating Glaives, one of the options that you were discussing, Zombie Grub. That is the massive attack speed upgrade. It's basically Stim or Adrenal for your Adepts. It makes them quite strong, especially against Zerglings and Workers. And if you get enough of them, you can overwhelm units like Queens, one or two Roaches. Generally speaking, we see Zerg players defend this with like either Spines and a lot of Queens, or most of the time you got to get Roaches out at some point, right? Like just Zerglings rarely cuts it, but Reynor's going to do the, I don't care how many Hellions you have, I'm going to have more Lings, and he's going to apply that logic to the Adepts, which could work out very well, or he could instantly lose the game if he overestimates his own number of Zerglings versus the number of Adepts. So as they come in for Trap, let's keep in mind Resonating Glaives is not done yet, so I don't really think he wants to push in just yet. He's just kind of posturing.
So Trap's like, I mean, he went for a lot of Adepts before really investing into the Twilight Council, right? Like, I think this might successfully disturb Reynor's macro, cycles here if the Adepts don't die, which was a really big caveat as they got partially surrounded. But more Adepts come forward and Resonating Glaives is finished. And I think Reynor might have identified this as just like an Adept attack, maybe into a third Nexus, instead of actually recognizing that Resonating Glaives is on the way. Because you're right, like not having Roached against this is a really dangerous way to play against it.
Look, there's what's here to stop this, Zombie Grub? What's here to save the drones? A handful of Lings and one Queen. I mean, she's doing her best, but there's only so much that you can do in a situation like this. The drones continue to drop. We're at 40 probes to 32 now, and Reynor is actually cranking out more Lings. He's continuing to try and boost those out. So the ability for the Zerg player to get drones is now limited since the larva's been going towards those fighting units. And look at the Wham Band follow-up out of Trap. He's going for a Speed Prism Disruptor drop, Zombie Grub. So he does not want to stop the pain anytime soon. And 12 workers total is what it looks like the bill's going to be.
And this was on top of Reynor really trying to prep for defense. It wasn't like he was at 50 drones and then lost 12 and he just like kind of gets over it. Like this was not what he wanted. He wanted to find those Adepts a little more out in the open, not protected by each other, get rid of them and then get rid of another pair and actually like make the momentum start on his side. Unfortunately, that didn't really happen. He almost had it happen, and then more Adepts came through for Trap with the upgrade finishing. So Reynor invests a lot into Lings that don't end up protecting his drone line as much as he would like. He's now down 10 workers, not a very comfortable position. Also, he's finally investing into a Roach Warren, figuring that I guess he needs it. That's late. His lair is late. No upgrades. Like,
this is so wild, though. Look at this style and think about what you would do against more Adepts, right? Like, can this many Lings deal with this many Adepts? Yes, I do think so now. Trap probably does not realize how many Zerglings Reynor has, but those Disruptors have the capability of killing everything that Reynor can build, because even when that Roach Warren is done, it's just going to be the option to build just regular slow roaches. It's not like he's got the tech up for roach speed yet. It's not like he has even the lair coming in. So these adepts are going to get surrounded by a lot of lings, but I'm thinking he's trying to spread the shots out from the disruptors to get them. And no, you're not hitting speedlings on creep with disruptor shots, no matter how good you are. Not even M Canyon could land those shots.
Especially not when you're all, like, you're also threatening your own adepts. Like, he thought about it and was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna pull that one disruptor shot back. That was, I mean, I don't know if, like, so Trap obviously didn't, as you were saying, recognize that there was gonna be that many lings, and lings really do complicate disruptors a lot. So I don't know if that was something that Reynor knew he would follow up with, disruptors specifically, or if it's a little bit of luck, honestly, because should have taken a
page out of Nina's book, just gone for the Colossus drop at the start. Against this many Zerglings, actually could have killed a lot. Yeah. Unfortunately, as cool as the disruptor play would have been, if Reynor had done something smart, like go for fast roaches against the Prism or against the Resonating Glaives, then yes, there may have been roaches on the field for the disruptors to kill. But because Reynor instead chose to do his crazy mass link thing, it actually worked out way better. As you can see, not that hard to hit the roaches, but wow, the second disruptor, 2 disruptors thrown away for like 4 roaches. That's painful, Zombie Grub. Painful.
I think you're spot on that this would be a beautiful like 1, 2, 3 punch against roaches, but it's a little bit weirder against lings. But at the end of the day, I do think that Trap has just gotten so many leads. You know, like he got to his third base pretty much uninterrupted, even though he lost his fight a couple times. It wasn't like a total loss. Nothing happened in the counterattack. And Reynor has been struggling to really get into a comfortable position as a Zerg player. Now he's up against not just Adepts and not just a Colossus, but even got a lot of force fields involved. He just needs army. He needs a lot of army. And unfortunately, he can't really get there because it took him so long to really get to the drone count that he wanted. So this just seems like another instance where Trap, aside from a massive mistake, he just wins.
Yeah, well, this is right. This is the Dollar General army that we've got over here from Reynor. There's a lot of Zerglings, some unupgraded roaches, like 1 or 2 Ravagers, and it can be very intimidating. And those Zerglings kind of pulling some of the army back, I think, is very, very important for Trap. I think there was an opportunity for him to try and get something done there. Just the lack of anything, but I guess he doesn't have Blink. He doesn't have Colossus range even. So he's instead going to go for the Colossus drop, the late Colossus drop. The 9.5 minute Colossus drop harassed Zombie Grub, which, as we all know, it's not a thing. No one does that. He's bringing the Prism home.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? Maybe no.
He realized, he's like, wait, this won't work right now. Will it? Oh, will it?
Will it though? I find some Ling Run bias is good use of it. As we know that Reynor is going to continuously poke and prod. I do think that Trap not sticking around does give Reynor that like really important breathing room, not just to get up to the drones, not just to get up to a 4th base, but I'm specifically looking at that Baneling nest. I mean, Banelings have actually become a bit of a comeback unit. You know, are they as much as one as a disruptor? Maybe
They've
not.
Become a comeback unit.
Well, yeah, anyways, like they're how you mess up an engagement, right? A force field missed, 50 Banelings get in. A storm missed, 20 Banelings. You know, like that's what Reynor has to do to have to, I think, actually take on this army.
There's a tipping point with the Banelings. You're very right. And if the Zerg player gets that number and then they get through the force fields at all via a Ravager or a flank, like, yeah, we generally see people die. Horrible, painful deaths to those mass Baneling attacks, but Baneling speed is not ready yet. The Baneling count itself is not that tremendous, and fighting in this choke point at least, force fields are going to be pretty cost effective. He's morphing a bunch of them behind the army, so he's going to go for a Baneling sandwich. Or Baneling hoagie, perhaps, would probably be. Yeah.
He's trying to buy so much time for the dribble hook, so +1 melee might be done, but he really needs the Baneling speed because he needs those Banelings from the backside to actually crash into the army, and they are going to be so late to this party. There's a force fieldable area behind the Colossus too, where just straight, 4 Colossus attacking. Actually, he's not going to end up going for the sandwich after all, kind of coming in from a 270 surround, and the slow Banelings look so sad. They do crash into the Stalkers a little bit, but 4 Colossus.
They still get some good hits. They still get some good hits, but the benefit of a Colossus-based army versus Reynor, specifically Zombie Grub, is that he cannot just flood out lings to try and close this out. 4 Colossi, with the massive amount of area of effect damage that they're going to deal with those laser beams, they are more than happy to shoot at an infinite number of Zerglings, and that's the problem with this low-tech army, is some Zerg players, when we talk about why Colossus weren't as popular, a lot of Zerg players just got really good at hitting that hive timing where they get the Vipers out or overwhelm you before you can get them, but when you're kind of willing to play this like early mid-game brawler style that Reynor likes to do, suddenly we can see a lot more value out of that splash, because not only is it going to be able to microwave a ton of the Zerglings all at once, but if you can like focus fire into the center mass of Banelings with the Colossi, you can also blow those guys up pretty damn fast too.
Reynor has got to give up this base and just hope that the Banelings can do the trick. He has amassed quite the Ravager count as well, but I was going to say that Trap's one weakness maybe is the lack of force fields. He's actually warped in a couple more sentries. They only have one force field apiece, and yes, Kursabala can break it, but that's the time, a little extra time the Colossus needs to really burst down those Banelings. Once again, the 270 Concave coming in, going for the Colossus. No, going to satisfy their craving for some Stalkers. And they do get, once again, some decent hits. But for Colossus, just continue to fire away without being interrupted. And this is Trap's game.
Yeah, I mean, this army just does not look like it's going to be stopped. The four Colossi have been holding together very well. Corrosive Biles coming down into the center mass of them. And GG is called. Trap picks it up. Going 2-0. Playing pretty damn well. The dog is big Protoss player, in case anybody was wondering. He was cheering at the end there. He's very excited.
Yeah, he was. Well, it seems to be a good time to be a Protoss fan, since Trap is now up 2-0, a circumstance that none of us expected, Reynor included. He said his ZVP was about as good as his ZVT, which he also thought was pretty damn good. And he's being proven absolutely wrong. Trap is coming in here with some prepared builds. He's really playing to not just the maps, but also to how Reynor would play. And I mean, he's making Reynor really eat his words.
Yeah, no, I really like the builds he's doing, Zombie Grove, because I think that trying to play straight up standard, like what Reynor and Serral, and honestly, I'm going to say more so Reynor now, what they've been doing, like I said, is like meta breaking type stuff. Like they're doing things that just deal so well with what everybody's used to playing, with how everybody likes to play StarCraft, that it's like turning into this whole giant nightmare of like, you're not even just playing against them specifically anymore. You have to try and relearn the game and how to deal with their styles in order to be able to take those wins. And that's what makes it so hard, because it's like, now he's bringing out Resonating Glaive Adept into Disruptor Colossus drops. And how are you going to be able to deal with that with a bunch of lings? Well, you can't. You gotta, you're forcing Reynor to adjust.
Yeah, in a big way. I mean, even that last game, going for the Adept attack that is, sometimes paired up with that third Nexus. You just go for 3 gateways instead of 2. Maybe there's a Stargate in there that hasn't appeared quite yet or something like that, right? Starting that and getting Reynor to have to build like an enormous amount of lings, because you need a good amount to tackle the Adepts. And then into the Resonating Glaives, like even that, just like he keeps on like just pulling Reynor off of his game plan from the get-go, forcing him to have to, again, think and pause and be like, wait, this isn't what I was expecting. Now we go into Ice and Chrome, which I do feel like is our normal big map finally, right? So maybe this is where Reynor can start the comeback. Yeah,
I mean, I will say this Protoss player has played such an incredibly smart series so far, and leading 2-0 in the bottom left, the blue Protoss, he is Trap.
In the top right, as the red Zerg, he is Reynor.
Yeah, but Trap has just played this so smart, though. I love everything. I love this discussion that we've been able to have around it, because Reynor is such a threatening type of player, but Trap has like really sat down and thought through what he wanted to do in this series to deal with specifically Reynor, and I do love that. And as much as I love that, if he wins this and gets into another PVZ, assuming that Serral is able to win on his side of the match, then it's not like he's going to be able to just take everything from that straight into the next series, because he's going to have to adjust again. And that's the struggle with these top Zerg players right now, is that they're really good, but they're not quite cookie cutters of each other.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's actually amazing that we have so different styles, instead of just like, well, this guy's good because he does everything else that everyone else is doing, which has been, I think, a problem in StarCraft 2's past. But now we're even getting to that point, 10 years in, it's about time that we can identify a unit with a player and, really push that story, which is really cool. But I was just kind of like, laughing a little bit after the intros, because I was reading Gemini, big Trap fan.
Oh boy.
He called it a swag build. And apparently this is something that, we can now attribute Gemini, a little bit for Trap's win in that second game. He reminded him of the Adept into follow-up Disruptor into what is usually Blink. I do remember that. But in that case, since it was Mass Lane, you couldn't really do it. So Just quick shout out there. Always nice to see behind the scenes what makes Trap mind work. In this case,
he's Trap's biggest fan, 100%. Shout out to you. If Gemini is gonna, I hope you're ready to pop some champagne if Trap wins this match. That's all I have to say. Okay, I want to see you have a nice day. All right, I want to see you have a nice day if Trap wins this. There's that Stargate again, so likely to be that Oracle play. Trap, does he strike you as a kind of guy that's gonna throw in some crazy Phoenix, like, and then a second Stargate? I don't know. He's low on my list for that right now, at least.
For a second Stargate, yeah, I would agree. I don't see him doing that. But I think for a long time, Trap and Stargate definitely were in my mind, right? Triple Oracle was one of his, I don't know, not breakout performances, because everyone talks about his PVT, but I feel like he was one of the ones that definitely was a master of it. So I get to see him going for some Phoenix, but I agree with you, not really a second Stargate. Plus, I don't think you want to do that against Reynor.
No,
right?
No, I agree.
King.
I agree. I feel like we don't really see almost ever. It just doesn't really happen a lot that people try to go Phoenix off one Stargate either, right? Like if anything on a one Stargate opening, it's a couple Oracles, maybe one Phoenix, and that's about it. That's where the line gets drawn, and then you kind of hold on to it in case things get crazy down the line. Of course, this isn't Golden Wall, so he didn't build the Stargate one base away from the main. So the expectations for the Oracle should be a little bit tempered, but there's no Spore Crawler. That mineral line looks like a fresh strawberry field, Zombie Grub. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. I mean, Trap's units and Gateway at the front, I mean, don't really tell him anything that would say not Stargate. He's done this off of a Stalker before, but this is, at least the 3 Queens are in prime position, as opposed to like the Oracle going into the main right now, where there's nothing.
That's true. That's true.
But it's still 5 drones with barely any damage taken on the Oracle.
Yeah, and now he's going to start the Spores too, so he's forcing that self-inflicted damage now of, okay, well, now I have to actually consider this and prepare for it. And the only drone line that was really exposed, I guess, was the one that had like 5 workers on it.
Oh,
the Spore's not ready yet, but I think it will be in time for these guys.
Yeah, they did take a little bit of a detour. If they had known, if they had gone straight in, there'd be no Queens, be no Spore Crawler. Could have been even deadlier, but another 5. So slightly better for the last time we saw Oracles, but not by very much.
Yeah, +1 melee starts up for Reynor again. And this is one of those things that's like, you're never surprised by it anymore when it's these guys. Like, we used to think this was such a creative, weird, wow, so random XD build from Zerg players, but now it's like, no, Reynor and Serral are gonna get that +1 melee super fast, and then that's what allows Reynor to have like that snowball capability that we talk about with those X Factor Zergling plays, getting them around into the mineral lines all around. But at the same time, it's also important to remember Ice and Chrome is a pretty defensible map. Like, this is one of the best maps for playing a long, slow game. The third base that Trap has gone for does not have a very large area in front of it. You do typically want to keep that path open, but if he wanted to wall it off, he could.
Mm-hmm. Traps showed some excellent Blink Stalker use actually on this map in his GSL game. So I would be actually a little bit scared for Reynor. I feel like of the ZVPs he's playing, I'm not sure how familiar he is against what we've been seeing from, like, even Parting has really showcased some excellent blinked Colossus sentry control. I'm not so worried about this initial push. This actually seems a bit brazen by Trap. He wants to more control Reynor than actually do a lot of damage. And unfortunately, Raynor's like, well, I got Lings on the map, dude. Like, you can't forget that I do that.
Yes. So I do think that in the face of this adversity, it's still important for him to try and do his thing, do his move out, do his shove, and force more larvae to get used to build units that especially aren't Zerglings. But if you get caught like this, then yeah, you could try to recall to get back, but everything that's coming out now, right? You might end up missing that energy later on. The Lings coming in from the backside. We talked about that. One of the Stalkers only losing the shields though, so not too bad. But without a prism, just this pylon is like, you know, is this the anchor that you want to hook your ship up to right now, Trap?
It seems a little like deteriorated. It doesn't look so hot.
Yeah.
Little breeze gonna go away.
Not exactly prime waters.
I agree, but it is a really cool build. Like, we didn't really emphasize how, like, what Trap is doing here, like negating the taking out that robo that you would usually have on a 3-base setup here, like usually it comes on a lot faster than this, right? This is something that Reynor would be like, oh, if I saw War Prism, I'd definitely be prepared. Otherwise, like, who puts down a proxy pylon anymore? This is so Wings of Liberty. It's now slow. But with the lanes being on the map, that's actually what I think really screwed up Trap's plan. Having to pull back that Sentry, having to pull back that Stalker, having to protect that pylon. Plenty of time for Reynor to go, oh, okay, you are dedicating to this. Let me just build a bunch of Ravagers and Roaches.
Yeah. Not to say that Trap's in any sort of bad position. Like, Reynor hasn't been able to get a big Zergling run by off, so the worker count is phenomenal for both players. Presumably, Trap is going to, with this robotics bay, start investing into, I'm going to guess Colossus again, because they actually worked really well for him last time against this type of army. I was wondering when he would try to get a 4th base or if he would try to squeeze one in behind this, but he may just be trying to save up all that money for Warpins. However, still no Prism. So he's like, he's going to start Colossi, but like he's got to get a 4th base behind this. Without a Warp Prism, I don't know how he thinks he could make a real attack happen.
I would assume so. Yeah, it's all well and good, Depth. Stalker's out in the
It's
map,
outrageous.
Yeah.
There's the wall off by that 3rd base. Oh, no, the Immortal.
It's going to go down.
Poor little bugger never had a chance.
Almost.
Would have made for a cool highlight.
Yeah. Now that is kind of important just because we aren't talking about a lot of Robo units, right? That Robo was so late. So 1 Immortal down, you know, you got to replace it, but you want to build up to 3 or 4 Colossus.
Yeah, and then keep in mind that while you do want 3 or 4 Colossi, you also want to have a Prism to be able to attack. Now look at this. He's starting another Stargate?
Oh.
What?
This just... Going in the
Is he
late
gonna
game?
Is he going to try and go to like Colossi, or is he thinking about like what? What?
Yeah, I would say we don't usually see this.
Oh, no. Oh, that one Colossus was so exposed for a second there. Oh, that's terrifying.
That is reminding himself to take care of that little entryway. It's not a big one, right? But it's still worth considering. You know, 20 Banelings to still roll through that. So stasis traps go down.
I do like the stasis traps. That's a really good call. I think those are the things that kind of do actually end up catching players like Reynor and Cero when they do these constant attacks, because a lot of it is just like, okay, shift move Banelings this way, shift move that way. So the Banelings on the north side have been dealt with. That 4th base is going to finish, so that means he now has to actually defend it to keep it alive. There's no just cancel and step back. And we have some of these queens off creep too, so this could end up being a nice free grab for Trap there. Looks like he was going to try and spawn creep tumors with that Overlord goop, but neither of those are going to happen.
Yeah, it did take me a second to realize what they were doing there. I was like, what is happening? But that would have been a really cool idea. Imagine creep spread up until the very edge of your 4th nexus. You know, that's not
Yeah,
that's not
no,
good.
I don't want that. I don't like that. No.
But not going to happen. So Reynor doesn't get to do his mid-game attack, but he still has that mid-game army. It's still maxed out, and actually he's even adding on Corruptors. I do feel like the Blinkstalker Colossus style is getting... It's popular nowadays. It's definitely recognizable, even if you don't necessarily play against it a whole ton. So Reynor is a little bit mentally prepared for that. Now he's going to be actually game-wise prepared to those Corruptors. Oh, he even finds a Colossus with the Lings. That is going to go down.
He keeps it alive. A couple of those Stalkers do die on the retreat path, but he's going to blink forward. It's quite an ambitious move by Trap. And we talk about he's not worried about the Zerglings when he has this many Colossi, but there are 9 Corruptors out on the field, Zombie Grub, and 70 Lings booting up for our Italian Zerg player. Now, if the Colossi get picked up by the Corruptors a little bit too quickly, then there's going to be nothing to really deal with this mass swarm from the Zerg player, as 1 and 2 are taken down, and the last Colossus stepping backwards, trying to hide, but even the Corruptor stepping forward to block the Prism from being able to contribute against this. Once those force fields are gone, there's really just not enough damage in this army to deal with Reynor's forces.
I don't know if Trap knew about the Spire. It was at the 4th base. He certainly hadn't scouted it, so he might have been surprised by the Corruptors. There were some excellent force fields on the bottom side, but it was such a wide arc for Reynor that the force fields were inevitably going to run out, and that's when the Banelings started to get really good damage. Trap, he overcommitted. He thought he had a chance. He didn't see the Banelings morphing on the backside, and now he's down 50 supply. With very mobile units, sure, so maybe he can hold on, but Reynor has taken the momentum in this game. He's going to add on the Infestation Pit, start looking more towards that hive. It's 5 bases to 4, so if Trap stabilizes, we're still talking about quite a good game, but Reynor certainly took the lead.
Yeah, well, this is where that Disruptor control, maybe he's going to be able to do something with that. We do have the Disruptors on the way, another robotics facility being added. I have to say, Zombie Grub, I thought that he might have expected a Spire when he started the second Stargate, right? Like maybe he thought to himself, oh, could this be a big Remax in the mutas? So that's why I was a little bit like, like just totally blindsided by the Corruptors. And it could have been that he still didn't expect there to be any Spire units at all until after that fight. But these Banelings are going to be doing what they do best, pushing back armies, killing probes, and denies with that static defense. Good disruptor hits can take out 2 of the Ravagers, though, but he needs to be careful with the rest of these forces. It's really hard to give chase on creep, especially when you know a bunch of Lings are about to show up, and then those Stalkers are going to be a whole lot less useful. 21 probes dying. Dark Templar do deny a hatch as they make their way to the north side, but I do expect there to be plenty to deal with them over there.
Yeah. Now alerted to DTs, he's going to have more protection around his bases. It was a cancel as well, so actually a really nice response. And while Reynor didn't end the game there, he got a lot of probes, and he also got a decent amount of Stalkers. Lots of Banelings popping on that right side, so he can easily replace it. Trap wants to try and always take these engagements a little bit farther out so we can have time to back up and kite and warp in, but eventually he's going to run out of time, I think. Like, he's just going to, Raynor's going to continue pushing him into his bases, certainly deny his 5th. That should be a given. And always have these Baneling advice.
That's what he does. That's what he's so good at, right? It's exactly this type of stuff, pulling the opponent apart, stretching them thin. And, you know, when we talk about PVZ especially, one of the things that makes it so hard for Protoss, that +2 kicks in. Only one of those Banelings need to reach your mineral line, and you're losing possibly half the workers there. So you need to be really on top with those force fields, with those wall offs. And this army just gives me anxiety, though, Zombie Grub. It's so many Stalkers. I feel like I'm watching like early Legacy of the Void PvP. That's what this looks like.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
Stalkers have really made quite the comeback in almost every single matchup.
Whoa!
Oh my God.
A warm bear hug with his Stalkers there. Wow.
That was cool.
Well, he did kill a lot of the Ravagers, and a majority of the supply right now is really just between the Corruptors and those Zerglings that he has. So if he could deal with the Lings, he has enough to deal with pretty much everything else in this army. Disruptor shots are going to go out. Good force fields to buy him that time. Unfortunately, the Prism is not going to be able to chill here for much longer with those Corruptors. But I even like that he's had this DT mixed in, gets a big shot on the Lings, suiciding his Immortal, though. But this army, as soon as the Lings get on top of it, everything dies. Good disruptor trade there, but this army, like, Stalkers are not Marauders. Stalkers are not Roaches. They're not cheap. It's 50 gas per, and they are that's quite the bank of resources that has been removed from this map with the loss of that Stalker ball and all of the disruptors. He's just got 7 Zealots and 4 Stalkers, and there are 7 Broodlords on the way.
Yeah, that was always going to be the real kicker. Even if Trap had played defensive, getting to a 5th base when he has so many things to account for, all the Lings on the map as good upgrade they have, and then also Broodlords, and then also Banelings, and he was going to be torn, so he pushes instead and just underestimates the surround potential, I suppose, of Reynor. GG. Reynor finally really getting to showcase how good he is with Lings on the macro map with no tricks. Little bit of a trick with the pylon, powering a 3-base attack, but it wasn't tricky enough. So Reynor, is it the comeback time? Is it going to be the reverse sweep once again? This kid's pretty good at them. We're going to find out more after this break. It feels a little bit familiar. Yesterday, Reynor was feeling somewhat confident in his ZVT. Suddenly, he's down 0-2 against Innovation, brings it back, and we wonder, man, can this kid really do it? It's the same situation.
We do have ourselves a situation here, and I have to say, Trap has definitely exceeded my expectations. Some really sharp builds, but you know, going for the old trusted pylon in the middle of the map, yeah, it hasn't really been good since 2015. Was that when it dropped? Yeah. Been a long time. Been a long time since the pylon in the middle of the map was enough to win games, and it's not probably ever going to be enough again. So, ever dream though, we're going on to another pretty well defensible back and forth normal type macro map, and Trap's just got to win one more game. But here's, as you pointed out, like Reynor got to do his thing, and he did it very, very well to make this the rest of this series a whole lot harder for the Korean Protoss player.
Yeah, he's I think he's on the maps that he likes now that don't get too tricky, but that doesn't mean that there aren't strong builds on the map.
Right.
I'll get into that more after the intros. In the bottom left of Everdream, we have the red Zerg Reynor.
And in the northeast position, spawning as the blue Protoss player, we have Trap. Good times.
So one of the builds that Trap was able to do in his GSL group is the Adepts, resident Glaives into the Swift Immortal follow-up. I am a little bit scared for Reynor if he does that, because Trap has already had success with Adept-based play, right, into a follow-up on that first map, Submarine. So on one hand, it's always arguable that it's just too obvious, right? We expect Blink Stalkers on the map in PvT. We expect 12 pull in ZVZ. We expect the Adepts in PvZ. But on the other hand, it does seem to be pretty powerful.
I'm just, I don't put that evil in my head thinking about that 12 pull drone. It makes me angry. It makes me very upset that people did that so much. Although I am hoping, or I will say, the best thing about Trap winning this match would mean that there's no possibility of a ZVZ final where there's a drone pull. Although, you know what? As far as ZVZ finals go, that would probably step it up a notch for me. Actually, yeah, no, I'm turning back. I'm turning back to wanting it, actually. Never mind. I get it now.
Yeah,
I get it now. We get enough ZVZ. I don't mind a couple drone pulls here and there.
I mean, that's what people were kind of expecting when they saw these matchups. They kind of thought that Reynor, was going to do well against Trap. ZVP feeling pretty good for the kid, and then on the other side of things, Serral Serral and Curious TVZ isn't his strong suit. But then we were like, oh, CVZ again. I don't mind it. I think they're such fantastic players, unique players as well, that when they do combat, it's always fun. But let's not kid ourselves. It is nice to not have a mirror matchup every once in a while. But Reynor's going to have to really, dig deep here to actually prove that he deserves to have another ZVZ finals. And that's going to be tough. Trap is going to have a lot of things up his sleeve. I think my analysis was quite correct there, Nathanias. It is the Twilight Council on the way. Couple of probes, pull out of gas. It actually kind of sucks to lose that Overlord, which might get back into check for a Dark Shrine later.
Yeah. Well, I think as far as resonating Glaive Adept builds go, which for some reason I feel like that's what we're going to have with seeing the Adept in the Twilight Council, Dark Shrine has been a very popular follow-up to that. But he's also moved down to 3 guys on gas, by the way, Zombie Girl. Oh. So is he planning to... is this going to be a boot up charge as soon as he has the gas and then stop mining it entirely? Okay, no, he's going to... Okay, I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Never mind. Forget what I had to say. Now he just put more probes back on gas. Trap's like, I'm doing this just to screw with the commentators.
Right? Yeah. I was with you. I was like, okay, no, I don't think people usually take another probe out of gas. I was really wondering, but I guess this is... PvT stuff. It's literally the most perfect thing you can do. These Protoss players and actually taking guys out of gas.
Push his horn-rimmed glasses up nose. The twinkle in the shades.
Well, so it does seem to be the 4-gate Adept. So that is what we were expecting, despite the little gas scuffle. Okay, never mind. Just kidding. All right, then.
Turn that heater up to 11. There's going to be a lot of adepts coming out. Okay. All right. Look at that. Spine crawler, spore crawler. Reynor doesn't even know, but he can like feel the heat coming at him through the computer screen. But losing 2 adepts, losing any adepts early on like this would be pretty painful. He's going to show the prism there. Only saves 1 of them. And the other one that he saved lost a little bit of hit points. I mean, every single little bit that he can have to throw at his opponent is going to be so important down the line.
He needs to build nothing but army right now. The thing is that I feel like you usually do that. You know, even if it's the 4-gate adept thing, you usually just build nonstop army. And the complication is that you actually are back home, maybe getting to a robo, maybe getting to a 3rd base, and that you're kind of like forcing them into an uncomfortable position. So I'm actually wondering how effective this is going to be for Trap. It's the old school 2-base all-in with 6 gateways, which actually is not, it's not 7 or 8. So okay. But it's still something where, like, well, Reynor is undoubtedly, as soon as he recognizes adept, as the word adept flashes through his brain, he's going to be making nonstop units. And I don't know adding 2 more gateways is actually going to be enough to actually break Reynor. The units aren't quite ready to go, though, so he already sniped one of those queens. But the lings on top of the adept, is it going to be enough lings? The queens even get to help out a little bit. Roaches are on the way, but another warping on that high ground. Oh, this is going to be dangerous. He has to stop the momentum. Yasu, the depths, they thrive on momentum. As soon as you lose the lings, and they can continue to just dance around everywhere, that's when the Protoss player starts to legitimately win the game, as they also start to snipe the roaches.
Yeah, the prism is exposed a little bit too much over there. Oof, thank goodness. As it does barely manage to slip away there. Thank goodness for Trap. But, you know, as you were saying, not having the links reposition means that he can just continue to shade back and forth away from where the roaches are. And even though we know that the roaches can be very strong against the adepts, and Reynor's ability to do this means the drones, as they continue to bounce back and forth between the bases, Zombie Grub, even though some of them are still alive, they ain't doing anything. Those drones may as well be overlords floating around using the dance command, because they're just chilling in the natural. They're bunching up by the ramp. The income, I don't want to say it. It's there's a pretty big disparity considering that there's a 3-worker difference in this match right now. And that continues to get dragged out as he cannot dislodge these adepts from his base.
I think he's really regretting using those lings like he did. I think it was maybe initially an okay thought, and then as soon as he recognized he wasn't actually killing as many adepts as he wanted, he had to pull back, because if he just pulls back, those adepts were kind of, you know, in this context, they were miles away from the drone line. You know, like they actually are best when they warp right into the drone line. They get shaded right into the drone line. So if he had waited and then 11 roaches pop out too, I think this is so much easier to clean up. There's still a chance here for Reynor if he were able to bop these adepts at any point, get us around, get the roaches on top of them. But that's so difficult to do. The amount of adepts is absolutely insane, and Trap is reinforcing with some immortals back home in case they do eventually die. They're once again tackling a lot of queens. There's only so many transfuses, shading back into the main base, where again, not many links can actually catch up to him. I think Trap has been able to crack Reynor here. Reynor's falling so far behind in everything.
Yeah, how do you actually get out of this position? Even if he was able to get enough roaches now, there's no money to make a tech transition. All he could do is maybe try to turn some of them into Ravagers if he had gas. But as he continues to crank out lings, you know, I just really like that in this series, we've seen Trap focus heavily on using units that are good against Zerglings. I think that last game is probably the big exception. A little bit too heavy on the Stalker side of things, but so many adepts, usage of the Colossi as the follow-up, the Disruptors even. I just love it. Well done, GG, Trap.